I call the, what is today, March 2nd meeting of the school committee to order. Let me do a quick review of our agenda tonight, and then we will jump right in. So we'll start with public comment for anything that's not on the agenda. We'll move to our consent agenda, take reports. Our school resource officers and Lieutenant Abadi are here tonight to provide our annual SRO update. We'll then adjourn into an executive session for about half an hour. We'll give the cause of that when we get there. We will return from executive session to open session. And then the last two items of business tonight will be a kindergarten enrollment update and for the upcoming school year, and then we'll have a discussion about potentially evaluating school committee council and creating a subcommittee to do so. So with that, I will start with public comment for anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Okay, easy enough. We can move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chuck. Any discussion or questions on the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? 5-0. Let's go to reports, and Dr. Milichewski.
Great, just to have one report and then also just one student shout out. So first report, as some of the community may know, we're pleased to report that the MSBA has voted the town of Reading to partner with the MSBA in conducting a feasibility study for Killam. The board's vote follows the town's timely completion of all of the requirements of the MSBA's eligibility period. So this was at the board meeting, I believe it was yesterday now. It was obviously what we had expected, but obviously to have this sort of move forward is really exciting for us and for the community. So more information to come, but want to make sure the community was in the loop on that update. Second is this a student level shout out. We're thrilled to share that Abigail Lebovich has moved forward as a national merit finalist. So Rusty and Cooper like that one. So this is, I know we've talked, I think, a couple of times this year about celebrating some of our national merit scholars. To move forward to this point in the competition, which she's one of the final 8,000 across the nation, and just a little bit of context, there are over 1 million students that took the PSATs. So we'll share more to come about sort of, what's ahead for Abigail, but this is new news for us, and I think it's just a tremendous academic accomplishment. So I want to make sure that everyone in the community was aware of her recognition.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Across the country.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great. Okay, committee reports. Sarah.
Just a quick one. We did have an RCTV meeting last week. We talked a little bit about kind of just getting creative around funding like everybody is these days in our current economy. So how can we continue to provide the level of service and supports we do, and the programming we do here at RPS will be a topic in the coming weeks and months.
Great. Thank you. Chuck.
No report.
Tom.
Two potential reports, unless you want to do finance committee.
Why don't you take it? And if you miss anything, I'll add to it. Yeah.
All right, so before I jump into that, policy subcommittee had two meetings back in February 15th, February 16th. And we reviewed a plethora of policies and voted to move many forward to the school committee. There are many more that we're taking back with further discussion. So this is your notice that at one of the forthcoming meetings, there will be multiple policies on the agenda as Sean is able to squeeze them in. The policies in question are GBA, Equal Employment Opportunity, DA, Fiscal Management Goals, DB, Annual Budget, DBC, Budget Deadlines and Schedules, DBD, Budget Planning, DBG, Budget Adoption Procedures, DBJ, Budget Transfer Authority, and DD, Grants, Proposals, and Special Reports. So many of them coming and a lot more behind those. So
Can I just make a comment?
Please.
I just want to just say I thought the meetings were very collaborative, and I think Tom's doing a phenomenal job in setting us up for it, and the staff involvement was excellent. So I thought they were very productive meetings. So sorry.
feedback.
Yeah. So Tom, before you move to the FinCom piece, do any of those have any priority over the others in terms of, time sensitivity?
Nothing is time sensitive necessarily. I think GBA is the one who's probably most related to most recent legal adjustments, so I would prioritize that one first. There are other time sensitive ones that are behind this that we have to refactor because of some of the conversations we've had. But everything else is part of recent mass reviews of the financial set of policies. Nothing that's critical there that has to happen immediately necessarily.
Okay, so per our policy, we'll plan to update each of these in one meeting. So we'll send copies of the proposed edits to the whole committee we'll probably do it very soon, but at least 7 days before the meeting in which we would discuss those. But this is the formal notice that at a future meeting, we'll be taking those for a one-meeting review. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so the other update is from the Finance Committee, and Sean and or Carla can add to it. Last night, our recommended budget was presented by Dr. Milichewski and Susan to the Finance Committee. It went swimmingly well, in my opinion. They had some good questions, similar questions that we asked in terms of sustainability and what does it look like under certain budget constraints. So we went through a lot of those kind of conversations as well and outlined some of the things that we're looking forward to in the future. So it was good collaborative conversation. Prior to our presentation, they went back through some of the free cash related forecasts and the budget forecast for the next 3-4 years and looking at how that might look if they kept the current 2.58 million in free cash as part of the budget going forward. And the next 3 years, 25, 26, 27, aren't looking as good as it stands right now. They're looking at more like 2.8 to 2.75 increases instead of the 4 point something that we're getting this year. So a lot of the conversation was around the sustainability and how do we fit things into those budgets if they come about. So anyway, again, I think it went overall pretty well, but it is important to understand the Finance Committee is looking not so much just at the 7% policy number they have. At least 3 or 4 members of the committee mentioned the 10% number that you hear from the Municipal Management Association about what drives your bond ratings. Your AAA bond ratings come from a 10% number, not from a 7% number. So they're wanting to make sure we keep those in line as well. So I think that's a high-level summary, but certainly others can add to it as necessary.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So I apologize for not being there. How was I was be curious as to hear how the setting up of the stabilization fund was received.
So there wasn't a great deal of discussion about it last night, other than to the extent that there were some questions about the decision made in this budget to reduce the number of placeholders for out-of-district placements.
Yeah.
And we talked about, Ms. Baton gave largely the same answer she gave to us when we talked about it, which was we've got layers of sort of, redundancy or backup, if you will, for unexpected special education costs. And the stabilization fund or reserve fund, I can't remember what it's formally called, stabilization fund, thank you, would be, just yet another backstop to help us to help us budget in this way. But it was, I would say it was generally well received. They didn't take a vote or anything like that on it, but it was well received.
Yeah, I think the other thing that they acknowledge is it kind of is essentially, it's just a backstop of free cash, right? So instead of the money going to free cash, it goes there, but if you needed it for that, it would come out of free cash anyway. It just reserves it for a very distinct purpose, and they were generally comfortable with it.
And,
So I'll just add just one thing. Oh, sorry.
and comes out of the base, too.
It just wouldn't be back in, so it was part of the regeneration conversation, so one of the questions they were asking is about how much, and maybe this is where you're going to go, how much the regeneration will be sustainable, like the
Yeah.
historical regeneration numbers, and if that needs to be rethought with new leadership and, how we're more strategically using some of the money and things along those lines, so that plays into that conversation a little bit.
Thank you, sorry, Sean.
No, I was just going to add, Ms. Baton and Dr. Milichewski did just a fantastic job of presenting the budget and the priorities, and we even got a very complimentary email from Jean Borowski mentioning how impressed she was with the clarity of the presentation, the level of detail that was provided, and sort of the confidence that they inspired with their ability to, speak to it very well and answer questions well. So very successful review with the FinCom, I would say. Carla.
So the bylaw committee met on February 22nd, and they were just looking at our requirement for town medical examinations for new employees. It will be Article 19 for town meeting. And then Dr. Milichewski mentioned the MSBA board meeting. A couple of things that I learned probably potentially a little late, in terms of reimbursement for MSBA projects. And their December 22nd meeting, they talked about, so that's going to the legislature to look for more money, right? In the December 28th meeting, they talked about, they've suspended the accelerated repair program to try and save money, and the number of communities they're letting into the core program has those numbers have decreased. So in 2020, they let 15 communities in. In 2021, when we got in, there were 17 communities, and for 2022, there was only 10 communities. So they're looking to save money on their end, or just to be more efficient with that money that they have, hoping that the legislature will catch up with that.
Can I, go ahead.
Chuck, go ahead.
What was, so that was the Wednesday morning meeting. What was the form? Was it a question or was it just a formality?
That wasn't something I found out at the meeting. That was something I found out separately from the meeting. But their board meeting, they went through a whole number of projects at different phases, and they just were doing a lot of voting.
Tom?
Did the bylaw committee vote on the amendment?
No.
They did not.
No, and I don't believe the bylaw committee votes on that, right? They're just kind of processing it through because the select board and the school committee both recommended it. I asked, so they're either next meeting, they're going to discuss it again, they're either going to vote on it or they're just going to pass it through to town meeting. I don't know if they formally have to, I don't think they have that power, right?
I asked because I did get pinged when I was in Florida from Fidel about whether we had voted on it or not, and so I told him, yes, we had voted on it, and he was passing that on to the bylaw committee, so maybe they held off waiting to know if we voted or not.
Oh, so I reached out to someone on the bylaw committee and said, we voted on it, SB, select board voted on it. Do you guys have to vote on it? And she said, I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
bylaw
they have to
changes, they
recommend,
usually make the
yeah.
recommendation.
They'll give a report at town meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, and I have no further report. So that brings us to the highlight of our evening. Rusty and Cooper.
Absolutely.
And Officers Batcher and Lewis as well, of course.
Cooper's comfortable back
Cooper's
there.
done.
Looks like
Cooper
I'm
found a
good.
chair, which might actually make things a little bit easier. So I hesitate to even say this. If it's possible to come up into the area of the tables versus the podiums.
They'll let Sarah stay, is that what you said?
You want us to come up there?
I can move my microphone down.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can, the new layout with these cameras,
Yeah, these.
RCTV won't necessarily catch you as well on the podium, so. That's all right. As long as they have the mics. And you can take it away.
All right, thank you for having us. So just to refresh your memories, I do have a name. My name is Officer Brian Lewis. I'm not just that guy who holds Cooper's leash. And this is Officer Matt Vatcher. He is Rusty's handler. Rusty's over there being a good boy. Coop's hiding over here behind the chair. We're just going to, thank you for having us tonight. We're just going to touch over some highlights of what we've done this far into the school year. And then we're going to go over some of the things that we're working towards this spring. So we did provide this list to you guys in the packet, but I'm just going to read right off from it. So number one, I think the most important thing, as the table is being moved, is this year we maintained an excellent partnership between the Reading Public Schools and the Reading Police. I think that's a great goal for every SRO to have an awesome relationship, and that's something we strive on every year, and I think the relationship's never been better. I think Dr. Milichewski could speak for that if he had to, but it's off to another fantastic start for this school year, and I look forward to working on this relationship to come. Officer Vatcher and I also received our recertification as SROs through the state. That's a requirement from the police reform. We did that last fall. We continue to work as members of the Reading Police Crisis Intervention Team, which is still growing every year with the police department. We've received training and certification from the National Association of School Resource Officers on adolescent mental health, which is also a requirement by the state. We have also been trained on Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, or CSTAG. Officer Vatcher and I actually received that training last year through the NEMLEC STARS program. Actually, all the NEMLEC STARS team is certified in that, and that is the gold standard for addressing school threats. It's recommended by the FBI, and now it's being rolled out to each school and the district. So we're having our own school threat teams who would, if we found something written on a bathroom stall, the team can get together, we go through a process to determine if it's a credible threat, and then what actions we need to take going forward. So we're part of the district team as well as school-based teams. We continue to work closely with the, Cooper, just sit. He wants to go on that chair. Yeah. This is like comedy. Excuse me. We continue to work closely with the Reading Coalition for Prevention and Support to provide resources to students and families as needed. With the addition of Tanya, our clinician, I'm just going to let him go. Lieutenant of the body, you can take him. With our addition of Tanya, our clinician, I think that's been an excellent resource for families. She's being used quite often here at the high school, and I think throughout the district. She has office hours during flex blocks, and I think that's a great program that's being well-received and being utilized often. We continue to work as part of the district crisis team and the RMHS core crisis team, separate from the CSTAG team, but we're just working on, revamping policies and procedures and making sure that everyone throughout the district and every school is kind of up to date and caught up on what we should be doing in the event of any different type of crisis that could come up in schools. Here at the high school, we've worked with the Reading Police Civil Rights Officer, Lieutenant Silva, and the Director of the Office of Equity and Social Justice to address any hate-based incidents that may have happened in the school. And then I'll let Officer Vatcher talk about what we're going to be working on this spring.
Yeah, hi, I'm Officer Vatcher, also known as Where's Rusty, Where's the Dog? Let's see, we recently, several members of the RPD just attended, including us, a Zoom training or just a Zoom presentation from the FBI Boston on responding to recent hoax or swatting calls. They had this Zoom meeting kind of just impromptu due to all the swatting events that happened in Massachusetts over the last few weeks. It was very informative. Me and Officer Lewis actually saw this individual talk before at one of our SRO conferences or mass certifications. We will be working, as we usually do, in every spring with the Reading Coalition for Prevention and Support to teach choose refuse, opiate prevention to, is it the juniors that we do it to?
Juniors, yep.
The juniors at the high school. We've done this for the past 5 years with the coalition, and it's a great thing to teach them every single year. I'll be presenting, like I have started to present to the 5th grade students the last couple of years, on internet accountability due to what I've seen is a rise in kids getting in trouble via electronic communication, texting, social media. A lot of bullying, harassing, and other crimes have been committed electronically, and kids are getting devices at younger ages now. So we've also worked with the Attorney General's office. They started a presentation 2 years ago. We were at Killam Elementary doing the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I think it was something through the PTO there. And we liked it so much we did it the next year with her. She recently just had a Zoom parent internet safety presentation. A lot of our principals got good feedback from it, and we're wondering when they were going to come back. When can we get this from our middle schools? So we planned to do that in April with the middle schools. So, let's see. We'll be joining other members of the Reading Police Department upcoming months to serve lunches like we usually do with the elementary school. We usually do it once or twice a year.
It's usually a big hit.
Yeah, it's usually a big hit. The dogs don't attend that one. And, we continue to work very hard in the Comfort Dog program. Officer Lewis did a great job spearheading it. We're doing our best to get these dogs trained. They're still young. They both have their stuff to work on and their quirks, and hopefully we'll get their certifications and work toward Comfort Dog certifications. And one last thing was
The Alice.
Yes, the Alice. We have an upcoming Alice drill at the high school, and we are working with the elementary principals to plan a professional development day for the teachers there. Since we no longer have drills, we just want to educate the teachers and maybe do some mock scenarios with them, and just so they know what's going on if, it was to pass.
And that's it.
And that's about it.
Do you have any questions?
I have one I admittedly know the answer to, but I heard some noise, and it might be helpful to have you guys sort of address it publicly. There was the fundraiser for tactical vests for Rusty and Cooper. I know now that the intent is not to have them, wearing those in schools, but maybe if you could just speak to that, just for anybody who might be watching who had those questions.
Yeah, sure. This came from one of our fellow school resource officers on the STARS, Nemlik STARS team. She friends with a employee at the Stoneham Animal Clinic or the Stoneham Animal Hospital that was looking for a dog to raise money for. They looked around for all like the working dogs, like our dog Tango, but they all have grants with Vestadog, and their vests are included. So they were looking for any dog to raise money for. So they put us in contact and say, we want to raise money for your vest, and we were all for that. These vests are just something to keep in the car. We are in the schools all day, but at a moment's notice, and it has happened before, we will get pulled away to help out in any emergency situation on the streets. So rather, even an emergency situation in the school, if the dogs are with us, it's something we have in our car just to throw on them, just to keep them safe. And it pretty much looks exactly what they're wearing right now, is their harness vest.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to share something too. I just want to build on, first, thank you for coming tonight. I want to share, Officer Lewis spoke a little bit about like the excellent partnership, and I want to speak to that for a minute too, just from the time I've been here. The partnership that we've had, I think obviously, which I'll get into, Officer Vatcher, Officer Lewis, but with Chief Clark, Lieutenant Abadi, I mean, they communicate extremely well with us and our team. They collaborate on some like really challenging and difficult issues really well with us, and I just think they're extremely diligent and on top of any little lead issue challenge that we see happening in our schools. So I just wanted to, make sure to double down on that point. And also, I know I don't see Chief Clark here too, but thank Chief Clark, Lieutenant Abadi for your leadership and support of the SRO program. I also just wanted some of the things that they didn't write on here, which is just the day-to-day work. I think we talk a lot about social and emotional needs and supporting kids, and I think that these are two of our, and I'll say educators who do it better, than or do it as well as any. They are, when you see them, they're in hallways talking to students, whether interacting with the dogs. They know students' names. They're kneeling down, crouching, helping students. They're checking in with students who may be looking sort of isolated by themselves to see how they're doing. They're a part of the life of the school, and their relationships with students are so positive. Obviously, the relationships with staff are so positive. I just, I think on behalf of all of our schools, just want to thank both of you. The way that you interact is just great role models for our community, and I think just go above and beyond what your job description would do. So thank you for all that you do for our students, and I think it is really, really appreciated. And I think if anyone's been in the schools, they're celebrities, and you can't go by their office without seeing students with them, with the dogs. And I also just like to thank you too personally. I know that your job has probably shifted a lot since you've added new family members too, and just your day-to-day in schools, and I think you've done it really, really well in a way that's been really powerful for students. So thank you for everything you do. We're really appreciative.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we joke about the dogs, but, the partnership existed long before the dogs did, and I think you guys were great resources for our students, long before the dogs. Everybody loves the dogs, of course, but, we certainly want to thank the two of you as well, and Lieutenant Abadi and Chief Clark for that support and partnership, so thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to add, we were told that the dogs would have a tremendous impact in the schools by every police officer who had one working in a school environment, and I knew our job would be different, but this literally has broken down so many communication barriers for students who have never spoken to a police officer before are now regular customers and come in and say hi, and we know aspects about them that we never would have known without the dogs. So I just want to thank you guys for granting us this opportunity, and I look forward to growing the program.
I springboarding a little bit off of Dr. Milczewski. Not only are you visible in the schools, but you're visible in the community and events in the community, sad events in the community, on the weekends and things like that. So that definitely is noticed. And I just know from the students, even at the high school, they did poorly on a test, they go down to see the dogs, so it's just a huge help. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Carly, you made me think of one more point too. It's like even when they go down to see the dogs, which is the ultimate icebreaker, then the students are still in front of Brian and Matt and still looking for conversation. So I know that still puts you in a position, while it just sort of removes barriers, you're still then in a situation where you're dealing with students who are upset, frustrated, disappointed, and you're the one sort of navigating that and a lot of support counseling work too. So that puts more work on you, and we appreciate how you handle that, navigate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I don't think we can express enough how much we appreciate you guys. I really don't, so I'll just leave it at that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Do you want to give him a treat?
All right, so we are going to now move to our executive session. So Carla, if we could start with a motion.
I motion to enter into executive session to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining. If an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. And this is for all collective bargaining units. And we will be returning to open session.
And seconded by Tom, and I do sort of declare that it would have a detrimental effect on our bargaining position. So with that, let's take a vote. We have to do a roll call because it's to adjourn to executive session. Sarah?
Yes.
To adjourn to executive
Yeah, I'm
session?
giving them my treat.
Okay. Chuck?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sean, yes. We are adjourned and we'll return in about half an hour. I call the regular session of the school committee back to order. So we've got, oh, sorry. Jessica, should have given you a second. So we've got just 2 remaining agenda items this evening. And the first is an update on the status so far of kindergarten enrollment for next school year. Dr. Milczewski, I suppose I'm handing it to you.
Yep, sounds good. So in your packet, you should have all the information here, which gives a little bit of a spreadsheet of just where we are with enrollments compared to projections, school by school. Just a couple of updates, also a cover letter that speaks about, just kind of gives a little breakdown of just our process thus far, and gives the total of 262 registrations. So a couple of things to note. I think we've had a couple of questions that we already know around the half-day sort of total at this point too, which was 5. I think our plan right now, before determining sort of how we're navigating that, is just still trying to close the loop on what we're doing with registrations that we're still anticipating. So a couple of things right now that are sort of in the works for us is that all of our secretaries and principals are contacting siblings and families where we know that there's still sort of siblings who haven't yet registered, to try to close the loop there. 2, matching up with census data. There's still some families that we expected to register, have not yet registered, so we're just following up and just seeing where they're at in the process. And then also just other families we have on our contact list. So these are families who have reached out for more information, have come to the kindergarten registration night, have come to different events and haven't registered yet, so we're still trying to contact those families. So we think there's still some kind of gap closing between where we are now and getting some other families who we believe are going to be registering. Once we have that information, continue to do that likely within the next month or so. Our plan is then to kind of figure out where we are with numbers, making the adjustments that we need to, and have a more solidified plan for half-day K as well too. So, but I'll pause here and see if there's any questions or comments from the committee.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I might have missed this, but in terms of the registrations that come in later typically in previous years, have those kind of been a mix of full and half or weighed in either direction?
Yeah, good question. I haven't done that analysis to know sort of at what point the ones that trickle in later
kind of
on.
guessing what we might
are they
see, yeah.
to look. I
Okay.
haven't done that level of
Okay.
analysis yet. It's a good point.
And technically, we only guarantee homeschool placement and full-day availability to students who've applied before the deadline, correct?
Yep.
So, yeah, so I mean, not that we want to use that lever, but obviously that's one lever that's available. The other watch area for me, and I shared this with you, when we spoke earlier, but is the cohort sizes at Wood End. We're two more Wood End students away from exceeding our class size guidelines there. It's interesting.
Exceeding. Or
What?
2, you right? Okay.
2, yeah. And, it's, so, that's the other watch area for me. Because again, while we technically can send people outside of their home school, students outside their home school, I don't think that's historically been something we've been interested in doing. So there's a little bit of a risk area there.
And that raises the point too, another area we haven't investigated yet to dig deeper on the data is why are we sort of way off with our projections with what we expected to be at kindergarten at Wood End versus where we are now too. So we have started that. We're going back and figuring out who is the cohort here right now, who do we anticipate, who do we not, who are the ones that have come in that we didn't anticipate and why, and trying to figure that out too, which might help us uncover who else do we expect may be out there who hasn't registered for Wood End yet, and or do we sort of have everyone that we believe is going to be registering too. So our team's sort of working on that level of analysis now too.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
So, Dr. Milczewski, just looking at this, I want to make sure I'm not overthinking this or underthinking this, as the case may be. If we have more requests come in for half-day, and it bumps the number to whatever, who knows what we think is acceptable. The way I'm reading this now is we're going to have to hire somebody, right? We have full classes to our, within reason, right? I don't think we have enough at any one school that we can break that from 3 classes to 2 classes or 4 classes to 3 classes. If you mean the closest, I was almost had myself convinced you could do that, but you can't because you have 5, 5, and 6, and now you're over, right? So, or some of those already the half days, and so it's not 5, 5, and 6. It's 5, 5, and 4, 5, 4, and 4, or something like that.
Correct.
So it's possible we might be able to break Killam into
Correct.
that and keep the current staff.
Correct. Possible.
Okay.
And also depending if we stay at just sort of 5 at this point, was obviously a couple of different ways we could go too, so.
Yep.
So, can I ask it?
Sure.
I just want to make sure, so we only have 5?
5, correct.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
and we also, we plan to check in with all the families too if they have to. We're not sure of the rationale on some of those too. Is that, how much is that due to, still cost? How much that's due just to personal preference? How much is that due to other factors? And we also don't know, I think a couple committee members have raised the question over the past year or so, when we continue to drop the tuition, what would the impact be on half-day K as well too? So I don't know if this is an indication of that here as well.
Sean, can I?
Yeah, please.
That was going to be, my thought is, being that it's only 5, I think it's real appropriate to have a meeting with each one of those families to find out if there's a reason that we could help with. You know.
Agreed.
Okay. Anything else on this? Okay.
So I think that our plan is to come back again, maybe towards the end of the month, and then give an update on where we stand, and then also just some of these questions that we're asking about strategic around half-day K. I think we'll be better prepared to answer at the end of the month, so.
Okay. All right, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, so the last order of business tonight is a discussion about whether we would like to form a subcommittee to prepare a recommendation for the school committee to consider hiring new counsel, either on the special education side or on the labor council side. Just as a sort of refresher, this came up in the context of when we were going through the budget process. This was the first year in many years in both cases that there'd been an increase in the rates. I think the increases were on the order of 9 or 10%, if I'm not mistaken. But again 9. But it sort of triggered the thought that, like, hey, we haven't. We as a committee, and even precursor committees to us, have not really looked at these relationships in a long time, and so maybe this is the time to do that. So. In talking with Colby just about sort of how to approach this, sort of the preferred approach, the preferred method would be to create a subcommittee. We would task the subcommittee with bringing a recommendation. We'd task the subcommittee with which council or both that we want them to look at, and with coming back with a recommendation to this committee. That recommendation could take the form of, we've talked to everybody out there, we've narrowed in on this one, we think the school committee should vote to hire this person. Could take the form of, here are a couple top candidates we'd like the school committee to meet with, and maybe decide as a committee as a whole. It could take the recommendation itself could take sort of whatever form is appropriate based on the conversation and the findings of the subcommittee. Is kind of how this would operate. If we do vote to create a subcommittee tonight, I'll also sort of solicit interest from folks. We'll probably want to have two or three people on that subcommittee. They will be posted, open meeting compliant meetings, of course. That's sort of the grounding here. The one other thing I just want to say, I would love to, to the extent possible, to keep this conversation this evening focused on what we're looking for, going forward, and what we're seeking if we do go down the path of making change for in one spot or both, and try and keep the conversation grounded in that way. So with that, I'll leave it kind of open-ended if anybody wants to jump in with a thought or a suggestion about what they kind of would like to see, or whether they'd like to see us do this or not. I'll leave it to whoever wants to jump in first. We don't need to raise hands. Let's just go. Go ahead, Chuck.
I think we've, talked enough about this, and I think it's probably appropriate to do. I don't know that, I don't know that it's necessary for Labor Council, but I think it's appropriate to do for Special Ed Council. Since those are two separate, we don't have the one doing both for us. So that's, I don't think this is a long conversation. I think we've had enough discussion about it, and it's time.
Other thoughts?
I'll just echo that. I think there's one council that we need to look at, but I'll also say that one of the reasons why I don't think we should be looking at Labor Council, they also help us with all of our policies, and I think they've been really, really, really good at that. We have an upcoming negotiation or set of negotiations that they have a lot of background in, so I don't want to upset the apple cart in that conversation either. And I think we generally want to look at the student services, special education related space, focusing on somebody who mirrors the qualities and values that the district has in terms of the way we want to be empathetic towards families and work with families and whatnot where necessary. So, keeping it to the positive side of things, that's what I think at least I would like that to be focused on, is finding a set of attorneys or a firm that mirrors the empathy that we see coming out of central office and that we see with many of our teams. And we want to make sure that that's a partner, not somebody else that's not a partner.
Sarah?
I'll just follow up on that again as well. I agree about, I think, focusing on the special ed side of the house in terms of our legal counsel is appropriate and necessary and very much needed. I think as a district, we're trying to start to turn a page in terms of special ed and how we partner with families in the district. And I would like to see us work with counsel who mirrors that as well.
Part of me thinks that just for best practices, it's always good to look at all contracts that we have. If the committee decides just to, which I definitely agree, we need to look at special ed, but just in terms of best practices, what do you guys think about?
Well, we looked at Colby's firm has been here for 5-6 years, so we did look at that,
Okay.
I'm going to say, probably 6 years ago or something. And we had a full RFP but I hear what you're saying, but it's not as if, we've never looked at the other one as long as I've been around.
And I don't have a problem there. I'm just throwing it out there as a best practices for a committee.
I think I would agree with you, Carla. I think it's worth certainly having the conversation on some semi-regular basis. I think I think, Chuck, you said it, I would be very hesitant to think about Labor Council right now, just given the timing, and the balls that we currently have in the air with Labor Council, as well as upcoming negotiations. Maybe it's something to revisit after we get through that negotiation cycle, just to say, hey, do we feel differently today? Do we want to, go through that exercise on the labor side? Maybe that's a sort of appropriate sort of marker to plant for ourselves or the future version of ourselves, when the timing is probably a better fit. So.
Just the other thing, Carla, and I think Tom could, if as well, if Colby came to me and asked me, can you write me a letter of recommendation? It would be a good one. I think she's done well by us, and now with, she's been a lot more involved in the policy work, but she's been good in the negotiations that we've done, with some personnel issues that we've had to go through. So, I would not have reservations about, the work hasn't been good. It's time to see if there's somebody better out there.
And like I said, I don't have an issue. I just was throwing it out there just as best practices, and I didn't know the last time that
Yes, certainly more recent.
agreement was reviewed.
Yep. Okay. So I'm hearing a coalescence around, at this time, creating a subcommittee to take a look at opportunities for special education counsel. One of the things we have to do in creating a subcommittee, in addition to identifying which members will participate, is providing that subcommittee with a charge. What's the work essentially that they're supposed to complete? So what I you all can see it in the packet, but what I shared in the packet was, in partnership with Dr. Milczewski, Dr. Stice, and other staff members that may be involved, holding public meetings, as many as are necessary to conduct the subcommittee's business. So that's just sort of a standard requirement of a subcommittee. Preparing a timeline for soliciting interest from qualified attorneys, evaluating candidates, and then developing a shortlist. Developing as a subcommittee a list of the qualifications and requirements and a rubric for how you'll evaluate any candidates that you might look at. Conducting interviews with the preferred candidates, and then ultimately as a subcommittee voting to recommend one or more candidates for consideration by the full committee. And then whomever we sort of appoint as subcommittee chair will coordinate with me to conduct to schedule and get on our agenda full committee interviews or a vote on a recommended candidate as appropriate. So like all committees, this subcommittee would sunset when the work of the subcommittee is completed or upon a vote of the full committee, whichever comes first. In my mind, it sort of makes sense to try and think about if we were to make a change, a clean break sort of at the end of the academic year, which is also our fiscal year. So I think, ideally having a recommendation and having the opportunity for this committee to vote in a late May or early June timeframe would probably be the bogey that we'd like to target.
I think you should add, you say or any, I think that Susan should definitely be part of that committee, as well as HR person.
Yeah, I mean, so the subcommittee technically only includes school committee members. So we don't have to appoint
Oh, I got
others.
you. I never mind.
And I'm sure Dr. Milichewski would figure out the proper staff members to bring to the table. And obviously, those can ebb and flow by meeting, if appropriate, and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, I mean, Ms. Baton and Ms. Roach makes sense as well. I'm sure they'll be involved in some capacity. So, okay. So are there any other comments on the charge? Because I think if we take the motion, we take the vote, I'll sort of say this is the charge, and then we'll move on to figuring out who wants to participate. Any other comments on the charge?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. Carla, would you share a motion?
Sure. I move to form a subcommittee to develop a recommendation for Special Education Council.
Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Tom. Any further discussion?
do you want our volunteer now or after the committee's formed?
We can form it, and then we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Chuck, are you raising your hand?
Yes.
All opposed? 5-0. Okay. So now we'll solicit who's interested. As I said, I think probably more than 3 members would be not ideal, but we certainly need at least 2. So I think that's the bogey, is 2 or 3. I will say Erin did express that she would be interested and be willing to participate, but she wouldn't have, scratched and clawed for it per se. So we'll see where the rest of the interest lies and go from there. Sarah's raising her hand. Tom's raising his hand. Okay. So I'll appoint the 2 of you. Either of you have a strong preference to be chair?
Please no.
Chair.
All right, we'll appoint Tom as chair. What I'll do is I'll ask Erin if she, also wants to be appointed, since we have room for a third. But for now, I'll appoint the 2 of you with Tom as chair. You've got your charge, and we'll obviously stay connected on the business of the subcommittee and how to bring it back to this committee as well.
You've got to send that to Laura, right?
To Laura Gem, yeah, of course, for the creation of the committee, yep.
If Erin doesn't want to do it and you want a third, I will step forward.
I don't feel strongly. I mean, I think,
I think you should only have 2.
you think so?
Yeah.
Just be easier from a scheduling perspective and all that? Sure, so,
Hold public meetings at Sturgis Park.
there you go. I don't know if that's one of the
The dogs
drop-down
might be
options
there,
on the
but-
agenda template. I'm not sure you can do that.
Open meeting.
Okay. Any further discussion on this topic?
Sean, I'll just add too, the administration's in support of this as well too, so just appreciate just all the comments raised tonight, and I think our team is on board with that this is the best path forward too, so, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else before we take a final motion? All right, is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Chuck, is there a second?
Second,
Sarah,
at
seconds.
8:42 PM, I just want to note that.
All in favor? All opposed? 5-0, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.